I'm Nicholas Kuhne, founder of Wunderbrand, and we're going to deep dive into the world of branding, digital marketing, and entrepreneurship. My career includes working with some of the world's top brand and advertising agencies, as well as working at brands like Nando's, MTV, and Comedy Central, where for 20 years I've honed my expertise in building brands in emerging markets. Based here in Oslo, I lecture on digital marketing, helping the next generation of marketers navigate this dynamic world. I'm here to share powerful insights from my own journey and bring you the wisdom of leading voices in branding and marketing from across the globe. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to scale, a student eager to learn, or a business seeking to elevate your brand, you're in the right place. Hello everybody, we have Amber Furman with us today. Now Amber has been doing podcasts for 5 years, I believe, so she's a pro at this, and we've just been discussing some of the challenges and some of the awesome things about doing podcasts. If you do want some tips and tricks on podcasts, I think Amber is the person to chat to. So let's go into the bio, shall we? Amber is a recovering perfectionist and serial accomplisher, helping professionals design their best life and have the courage to live it. Attorney, author, podcaster, speaker, success architect, NLP master coach, NLP certified trainer, and author of the book that we're going to talk about called Break Your Bullshit Box, where she discusses the excuses we've relied on to justify holding ourselves back and how to break the bullshit box those excuses live in. So with that introduction, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So I had a look at your bio, and I saw a PhD or a doctor of something as well. So that's obviously missing off the bio sheet. Or maybe I misread
wish.
that.
No, it's just the law. It would be great.
Just
I think
the law degree.
I have a PhD in bullshit, if that counts. So,
That certainly
excuses. Counts. In the legal profession, we do everything backwards. So we get our doctorate before we get our master's. So I technically have like a Juris Doctorate degree. That's what JD stands for, but I don't have a master's. So I hate saying I have a doctorate because it's really disrespectful to people who actually have a PhD.
So if somebody collapses in the airplane, you can tell them some legalese, but not revive them, basically.
I can tell you how to talk your way out of a courtroom. I cannot save your life.
Well, because this is a digital marketing podcast, really, the only people I like having on are people who have doctorates in bullshit. So, and you're the perfect person to talk to about bullshit, I believe, because you've got a book called Break Your Bullshit Box. So let's maybe about that. And again, just a reminder for folks who are listening to this podcast for the first time, we try and bring in digital marketing, entrepreneurship, and some useful nuggets or pearls that you can use to take your own life forward. So whether we're going to hear about something on digital marketing, how Amber's helped grow her business and her podcast and get her book out there, that's one thing. But let's get into the book.
Yeah, so it's interesting when we talk about digital marketing before I dig into the book and where it came from, because I didn't expect it to resonate with marketers the way that it has, but it is a communication conversation, right? Like we cannot take away from the fact that when we communicate, we're communicating with people. And people all have this bullshit that goes on in their heads. So it'd be really nice if we could just share our product and service and all the things that are good about it and all of the amazing reasons that people should buy it. And then they'd be like, oh, that's amazing. But instead, it pops up into their head all of the excuses about why they need to stay stuck and they don't deserve to have success and they can't have what it is they want. And we need to know how to speak to those excuses. And the only way to do that is to acknowledge that we have had them in the past, or maybe still do. And that's really what Break Your Bullshit Box is about, is the excuses that exist in our head and kind of how we acknowledge them and move forward. Every exciting idea comes from a hotel room in Vegas, but I was with some friends of mine in Vegas, and I had this idea rolling around in my head for a while about this bullshit related book. And I don't know why gremlins popped in my head, but I started thinking about the 3 rules of gremlins. You know, you don't feed them after midnight, you don't get them wet. And I started thinking about, like, what are the 3 rules? That is kind of where the book all started, is with the gremlins in your head. and the 3 rules to keep them from turning from gizmo into nasty gizmo.
Isn't it amazing that the things that are holding us back, or the things that we think are issues, are actually sometimes the things that people are interested in, the things that are actually different about us? And the last thing I'm going to say about that is my favorite phrase from my father, which is, worry is the only vice that doesn't give you pleasure. And that stuck in my head for my entire life, because it's so true.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because that's really the premise of where this whole conversation about the bullshit box started. Because I had been standing on stages and talking for a while about the dangers of what happens when we compartmentalize. And so I had talked about this compartmentalization box, where we take all of the trauma we don't want to deal with, all of the things that we think bring us shame or make us different or will allow us to be judged, and we lock those in a box and we seal it up and we hope that the world never sees it and we pretend it doesn't exist. A while, because that's my story, right? I had all this trauma. I put it in a box. I focused on law school. I expected law school and a 6-figure income to take away my trauma box. It didn't. My trauma box exploded and I had panic attacks. So I would talk about what happened when that compartmentalization box explodes, because we overfill it with all of our trauma. And I talked about that for about 2 years before I realized that I was doing a huge disservice to people by not talking about what happened after that box exploded that got me to where I am now, which was dealing with the bullshit. So in the book, I actually compare it as 2 different boxes that live in our head. Our compartmentalization box that we seal up, we hide away from the world we never want to see again. And then our bullshit box, which stays open and it's full of our excuses. And every time we start to grow out of our comfort zone, we grab our closest excuse and we talk about why it is that we can't do what it is we say we want to do. Well, in the book, I talk about how those things need to be swapped. Our bullshit box needs to be sealed and put away, and we need to pretend it doesn't exist. That compartmentalization box that's full of all the things that bring us shame or that we think bring us shame, that's what people want to connect with. The moment that we let that guard down and we say, this happened to me and I feel like you're going to judge me for it, we have 15 people lining up to tell us that that happened to them too, and it's the first time that they've related to us. So when we're out there talking, to bring this kind of into the digital marketing world, when we're out there talking about what makes us different, people don't window shop anymore. By the time they are in contact with you, they know they are going to buy what it is you sell. The only question is, are they going to buy it from you? So talking about your product and service and how amazing it is, they don't give a shit. They want to know why you are the person that they should trust with their money, their problems, and looking for the solution. And you cannot do that if you are too busy guarding your life experiences for fear of judgment and rejection.
It is so true. And a lot of the successful people that I've spoken to who've closed that box and swapped the boxes around, like you've said, have been terribly successful. But it is a traumatic experience, or there's a mind shift that needs to happen for you to actually get to that stage of being able to say, okay, I need to open up. And that vulnerability or that willingness to open up is not something everyone can do. Do you have some suggestions in your book, or do you have some examples of how people have broken through that barrier?
Yeah, so for me, your circle is the most important thing. I tell people that I know whether I'm ready to deal with a problem or solution based upon who I call to talk about it. Because I have people in my circle that will accept my excuses, remind me that I don't need to be so busy. Every entrepreneur out there has had somebody in their family tell them they wish they'd slow down. Every single one. I would bet my money on it, right? Because we do so much. We have so much on our plate and we do it because we love it. And in our family somewhere is a person who believes that success is a 9-to-5 with a 401k. And those people look at us and say, why the hell do you work so hard? When are you going to slow down? So when we reach out to our family and our friends for advice, they don't see our problems the same way that we do. So when I work with really high performing people and they're talking about wanting to get to the next level, I can't tell you how many times I hear, I can't talk to my family about this because when I tell them I don't feel like I'm doing enough, they tell me I'm doing too much. So for me, the biggest thing is finding, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a circle of people that you trust, that is invested in your success, not invested in your story, that will call you on those excuses, because we can't see them. We don't know when we're deploying them. In fact, that chapter in my book is called All Gremlins Are Cute, or All Gremlins Are Assholes, even the cute ones, right? So we think, it might come out as, I don't have time to cold call. I don't have time to network. I don't have time to write my marketing page. But what's actually going on behind the scenes of those words is, if I pick up the phone, I'm going to get rejected. If I get rejected, I have no value or service to other people. If I make this call and they say yes, I'm going to have money, and I've never had money and I don't know what to do with money, so I'm not going to make the sales call. So what comes out of our mouth as the reason and justification that might be completely valid is the way that our brain has justified the underlying safety concern that it has about our identity as we see it. And the only way we can shift that is to surround ourselves with people who will challenge our identity.
So that makes a lot of sense. But the issue is, and I'm not sure based on your experience in this, but is there a difference between males and females, entrepreneurs and so on, in terms of how they make networks? Because I'm speaking as a male right now, that at my age, making more male friends or opening up or finding networks like this, that is in one of my boxes. It's tough. So is that similar for both? Is it easier for women, perhaps more difficult for men, or is there a method that one can use to break through that box?
Yeah, so men and women are both humans, so the human behavior aspect is the same. What's different is the programming. And men, and I love this question because I think that it is so incredibly important to find circles of men that will open up and have real conversations. And it's so dear to my heart because I resonate with men a lot more than I resonate with women. In fact, most of my friends are men. I would much rather have a beer on a golf course or at a hockey game than sit around the spa talking about my life problems, right? So for me, I've just resonated what are identified as men things more than I resonate with women things. And it wasn't until I started healing that part of the reason that I realized that I enjoyed being around men more than women is they were never going to ask me to tell them how I felt. We weren't going to have to talk about our trauma. We weren't going to have to talk about our emotions. We weren't going to have to talk about our feelings. We were going to be able to have surface level friendship conversations around sports and fantasy football and golf. And then that was going to be enough. And I think that goes down to societal programming. So to get a little nerdy and scientific with you, we start as a clean slate. We're programmed all throughout our life based upon the values and beliefs that exist around us in our family, in our towns, in our communities, in our churches, whatever your upbringing is. And historically, men have been taught that in order to be real men, you have to be non-emotional. You can't cry. You don't talk about your feelings. A woman doesn't want somebody who's soft. You've got to be able to protect her. All the other bullshit that goes along with that. On the flip side of that coin, women have been taught that if you think about yourself first, then you're selfish, that you got to put your family first, that your career should come second to a family, that it's your job to take care of everybody else. So the way that we overcome programming is the same, which is with in-depth training and reprogramming that goes through reframing conversations. That's what NLP really is reframing the way that you were programmed. Men are afraid to open up because they are afraid that they're going to get clobbered because society has told them all the time that we don't give a shit about their feelings. We as women will say, I want a man that can sit down. And Brene Brown, if anybody knows her name, has done some incredible research around this. So I would encourage you to go look up her information on this. Women will say, I want a man who's soft that cares about my feelings. You cannot have that without allowing a man to fall apart in front of you and be okay with it. And men have not been taught by most of the people that they've been around in society that that's okay yet. So I don't know that that's an answer to your question. The short answer is you find the circle of people who are willing to open up, by being willing to open up and finding out who joins you.
Well, you had me at golf, by the way. So, I have heard that conversation before, that one of the ways that folks and women deal with that issue is at these meetings, you're not allowed to talk about feelings. You're not allowed talking about family. You've got 5 minutes. You've got to talk just about the issue at hand in terms of business or the immediate thing that you're trying to deal with. And I thought that was quite an interesting and different strategy. And you talk about NLP, Neuro-Linguistic programming. There's the other one for data science, which I keep on mixing up the whole time. You're a certified trainer. So if what I understand, you're talking about sort of reprogramming these deep set identity and deep set thought patterns that we've got. How does this work in your coaching, and what type of people do you help with your NLP coaching?
So NLP can be used in a lot of different ways. The reality is the drama and trauma of everyday life affects how you run your business. I work with business owners and entrepreneurs to help them make more money, do it more efficiently, be able to have more work-life balance. I work with a lot of professional service providers like doctors, lawyers, real estate agents, people who have put a lot of time into their career, and now they're realizing that all they've done is tie themselves with these golden handcuffs, and that this freedom that they thought they were working so hard for never came. When we talk about things like work-life harmony and making more money, the biggest mistake we make is using that word, balance, because it's not possible. Work-life balance is not possible. So we approach it from a harmony standpoint in the NLP world of taking a look at all of the areas of your life and finding out which areas you actually feel like you're deficient in, which areas do you feel like you need the most work on. Because if you've ever felt like you're in a car and one of the sides of your wheel has a pothole and you get this traction going and then you hit that pothole and then you stop and it takes time to get it going again, it's because you've hit that area of your life that's pulling you back. Or if you've ever felt like you're pulling from one side and you got to go to the other and you just get it figured out in your career and then your relationship falls apart, it's because we have to look at our life as a whole, and we have to really be intentional about how much time am I going to put towards my career, and how much time am I going to put towards my family, and how much time am I going to put towards my health, and how am I going to do it all at the same time, instead of this quarter's career, this quarter's health, this quarter's life, right? So when we're talking about digging in and reprogramming, it really is as simple as we believe that and I'm going to use something really, really, really simple. We believe that the sky is blue because that's what we've always been told, right? But how do we know that? Like, how do we know that that color is blue? How do we know the name of it? We know it because somebody told us that forever ago and we believed it and we bought into it. But what if that's not the color, right? What if somebody's colorblind and that's not what they see? So if you have somebody who's colorblind that's never seen the sky is blue, and to them the sky is gray, and then you're over here saying the sky is blue, and you're trying to convince this person that the sky is gray, the sky is blue, you're never going to be able to do it. This is the way most people communicate. They say, I know this to be a fact, so that means it must be true for everybody. And when they meet somebody else and that person has a different fact, instead of stepping in and saying, what could exist in your world that makes that fact for you and this fact for me? Instead, we just butt heads and say, well, you're wrong. This is the single concept that made me a better attorney, because prior to understanding this, when I would go into a courtroom and you would have 9 witnesses saying 9 different things about the same event, my first thought was, which 8 of them are lying? But what if they're not? What if all 8 of them see facts differently because of their life experiences that have taught them that the world exists a certain way? Now take out everybody else and let's talk about communication with yourself. What if you have these facts based on the way that you see the world, based on your life experiences? Maybe it's, I can't run a business. Maybe it's, I don't know how to handle money. Maybe it's, I don't know how to be in a relationship. You believe that because somebody told you that it was a fact. Something happened that made you believe that one day, and you decided to believe it for the rest of your life. What we do with NLP is we identify the moment that you decided that was true, and we reframe that so that you can see other possibilities that that event might have actually meant, so that you can start to see the possibilities of solutions in a completely different way.
That is so exciting, the way that you've explained that, because it is, again, so true. And it's a very mature take on life as well. And, when I talk to other business leaders and I talk to other folks smarter than me, I try and wring out some interesting bits of information from them. And I say, what can I give over to students or to younger folks to help them navigate shortcut life? So take those 10 years or 20 years of horrors or mistakes that I've made and shortcut it. Do you find that you actually need a bit of maturity to get to the stage, or have you seen people at a younger age being able to grasp on this? Because it makes so much sense.
Yeah,
But
I think
is this more for people who are slightly more mature and can accept this? Or have you found younger folks being able to take this on board and change their perception? Because if I look at the situation now, and if one just looks at the political situation in the US as well, both sides have these facts in their head. And no matter what you do, it's so difficult.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you, I think your answer is yes to both. I did a really cool podcast interview with Les Brown about a year ago. And I asked him a question kind of similar to this. I said, you've got your family and you talk about them being these young kids that you've now raised to these amazing entrepreneurs. How early do you think is too early to start talking about this stuff? And he said, never. It's never too early. There's a better way to do things. We have to be willing to acknowledge that our way isn't the only way. And that comes with maturity. But maturity isn't always age. So I find that the people who have been willing to challenge it at a younger age have either grown up around people who constantly challenged their opinions. They grew up in the human behavior world, or they've been through some shit at a young age that has caused them to mature a lot quicker than others. So I get asked all the time to come speak to colleges or to schools, and I have to think with each environment, how am I going to get across some seeds that I know they're not going to listen to right now? Because I was told when I was in law school all the things I could do with a law degree besides practice law, and I didn't listen to a single one of them, because why would anybody go through all of this and not practice law? And then 5 years into my career, I'm having panic attacks and I'm having anxiety attacks, and I want to go back to bartending, and I don't know what I can do with my degree besides practice law. And then I'm thinking, man, I really wish that I would have listened to that conversation. But even though I didn't listen, I knew it happened. And so that allowed me to say, wait a second, there are things that I can do with my degree besides practice law. Let me figure out what they are. To give you another example, I was at a speaking engagement talking about this crash, and I said, I got a 6-figure income. I had my law degree. I started having panic attacks. It didn't bring me peace and happiness and freedom like I thought it would. It brought me panic attacks. And I was talking to somebody who made $40,000 a year, and he says, I hear you, and I logically understand what you're saying, but I cannot fathom a world where $100,000 doesn't fix my problems. So we get to plant as many seeds as we can for people, to give them the best opportunity when they are ready to start making a change. That they can say, I remember I had this conversation once with this person and I didn't buy it then, but I think I might buy it now.
I just wish I could shoehorn these lessons a little bit sooner in
Yes.
people. But it does take some...
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Like, even if we could, we'd just make different mistakes, right? Somebody asked me once if I would like to go back and start my first business with all the knowledge that I have now. And I'd be like, sure, that'd be fantastic, but I'd just make bigger mistakes because there's always more to learn. So I think the key is that mistakes are going to happen and nobody knows what they're doing. They're figuring out it as they go. So we just get to dig in and be okay being like, what was the quote? I don't remember who said it, but that success is just a bunch of little failures all piled up on top of each other. Something along that line, right? We fail and fail and fail and fail, and eventually we don't fail anymore at that thing. But then the next thing we fail and fail and fail and fail until we don't fail anymore. It's just we just get really good at failure.
Absolutely. And that's why I look back at my career and I look back at some jobs I had which I hated or I had bad experiences. But those failures, as you mentioned, have made me into who I am today. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, we can see later. But I look back at it and, okay, I've utilized that awful mistake I made, not doing it again in this, or being able to tell somebody, don't do this, or have you thought about this? And every experience, from packing boxes to waking up early, going to markets, and not having enough money to pay the rent and things like that, makes you think differently and act differently. So, as you say, everyone's got their own unique experiences, and that builds them into who they are. And even your trauma has now gotten you to a space where you are sharing such wonderful knowledge and written your book and has hopefully impacted on so many more people's lives than if you just had a very nice, peaceful life where you just coasted along with your 6-figure salary.
It's so true. And my life was pretty damn good. And that's, I think, what makes me so positioned to talk about this, because we've all been to those conferences where somebody was deployed during a war and came back with trauma, or they got injured in a sporting event and had to learn how to walk again, or they had, cancer and they came back from that, and they're telling these super amazing stories of having to learn how to walk again and having to learn how to live their life. And we're like, that's great for you, but I came from a 2-parent household with, what am I going to do? And then when we hear people who had really good upbringings and we're like, oh, you had a good life and you're still screwed up, like maybe I can have trauma too. We as humans are so good at minimizing our trauma because we see somebody else who did it better, right? You see somebody else who had worse trauma than we did. We're like, well, I can't bitch about my life because look at this guy. The fact that somebody else had a tougher road than you did doesn't mean that the road that you were on didn't create limiting beliefs and trauma for you. So we get to really step into the fact that life doesn't have to be this horrible up and down roller coaster to create trauma. There's a really good book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And he talks about how we just get to pick our problems. You can have $20,000 a year or $200 million a year. They both have a set of problems that come with them. Which problems do you want to have? Because I promise you that they are different, but they are still problems, right? And then I want to step back for just a second about this failure thing, because you seem like you're a sports guy. You're definitely a golf guy. Have you seen any of the videos for the Savannah Bananas here in the U.S.? They're a baseball team.
I haven't, I'm afraid.
Okay, so they're a baseball team that is basically the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. They dance, they're entertaining. The games aren't scripted, so they don't always win. It's real baseball. But you might see somebody in center field doing a backflip before they catch a fly ball. Or you'll see them, somebody gets walked and their entire team will come carry them out. It's entertainment first and baseball second. And there was a really cool interview with that center fielder. And he says, I had this, and he was an MLB player for a little bit, Major League Baseball. And he says, I had this really cool idea. And I went to the coaches of our team and I said, I think it might be cool if I do a backflip before I catch the ball. And I'm wondering what you think about that. And he says, I think you should do it. He's like, you might miss 9 out of 10 times, but it's going to be entertaining no matter what. And that time that you catch the ball, the crowd's going to go wild. And he says, this is the difference between being in an organization where winning is the only thing that matters and failure is unacceptable, and being in an organization where you can try anything and have permission to fail because you're going to learn from it. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to fit a purpose for your fans. And what comes out of that is so much more special than winning a baseball game. If you take this into your organizations, if you're the leader of an organization or a team, if you have not made it clear to them that they have permission to fail, then they are more like that Major League Baseball player that thinks that winning and sales and the bottom line is the most important thing. And there are all of these creative ideas that they're not bringing to you because they are probably going to fail. And they don't know they have that permission. Making sure that you and your team know that you have permission to fail as long as you learn from it is such an incredibly valuable place to start your leadership journey from.
And imagine the feeling of accomplishment when that chap does catch the ball doing the backflip. I mean, that'll last with them for ages. And as you said, that is more valuable than winning 10 out of 10, because that'll stand out and is memorable. And that's what will keep you at that organization as well, is the trust and the camaraderie and the celebration of these extraordinary wins that come out one every 10 times.
Yeah. And from a marketing standpoint, the creator of this league, there's now 4 teams. I think they're coming on 6 teams for the league. And the creator of it is a marketing genius. There is a book he wrote called Fans First. And he talks about how they transformed baseball. And he talks about how any business can think about their clients as fans. Even, he talks about attorneys, which always makes me laugh because I read books talking about marketing and creativity. And I'm like, yeah, that's great for all you people that don't have like a bar association looking over every move you make. And so he's like, let me take it into attorneys, for example. And I was like, yeah, take it into attorneys, like make it interesting. And he goes, if you're a divorce attorney, imagine what your business could be like if at the end of every divorce you gave somebody a divorce playlist, or you gave them a gift card to your local cake shop where they could go get a divorce cake for their divorce party. Like, what could it look like if you treated your clients with the same excitement as somebody who's going out to watch some sort of entertainment? Because that is what people want. They want a mixture of excitement and entertainment and knowledge and growth, regardless of the business and industry you're in.
Well, it's so exciting. You're talking about linking this with marketing as well. And I think that excitement and seeing customers as fans is a great insight. And if people have more fun in business, not, you obviously got to worry about the bottom line, but that concept of fun and remembering that your customers are people too. And are looking for a little bit of joy in their life. Perhaps you could be the one who does that.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, like going back to that divorce attorney example, yes, it's a serious thing. And it probably sucks. There's a lot of emotions that have been involved in that. But we can't ignore those, and we can't pretend that joy doesn't exist. So even if you're in a serious industry where you think, I can't talk about joy and happiness because the people that come to me aren't in that space right now, that's exactly why you should be talking about it, because they need it. That is what they need more than anything, is to be told that it's okay to find the good in the situation that they're going through, instead of focus on, no doubt, the trauma. Because whether you're excited to end a relationship or not, it's still traumatic.
Yeah, I think this whole concept of reframing what we think is true is a marvelous concept and something we should chat about at some other time as well. Where can folks get in touch with you? Because I can see you do a whole bunch of things. You've got a fantastic book. You're a coach. You're a podcaster. I mean, your podcast has been going since 2019, which is amazing. And you're a speaker, success. I mean, there's so many things. Where can folks reach out to you to find a bit more about you, or to get hold of your book or your services?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. So there is a lot of things that go on in my world, but they all revolve around helping people be better humans or make more money. One of the two. And usually those two things go together. So if you go to my website at successdevelopmentsolutions.com, there's information there on the podcast, the book, how to get a hold of me. I'm on all of the social medias, so all of that's linked in there as well. I will not challenge you to try to spell my last name, so you can just go there and click it. I was not blessed with the easy last name to spell, which is great because stealing my identity is really hard.
Well, to help folks, I'll put a link in the description so that they've got that. It's been so exciting chatting to you. I really love the warmth and vibrancy that you brought to this call. So thank you so much, and I hope folks do reach out to you.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to be on.